Alright, so welcome back to episode 4 of LEGO Marvel Superheroes. This time you can see that we have paired together two characters who know each other in the comics, and you might have seen one of them in Civil War and the other one in the most recent X-Men movie, and that is Storm and Black Panther. In the comics, these two were actually married to each other. Storm, of course, being one of the more important X-Men, and of course Black Panther being the king of Wakanda and its protector. So you see Black Panther, essentially, I would say his character is sort of a Wolverine clone. You can see he's got the wild sense, even though there's nothing to detect up here. And he has the ability to dig. But that would require you to know or have seen Wolverine and his skill set before, which, as of this moment, you have not seen. And it's probably time for us to change that. So we're going to head to the next part of the story, and we're going to rock up at the lockup. Now this level is going to take us to the Raft, which is that prison that holds the worst of the worst as far as criminals are concerned. In Captain America Civil War, it was portrayed as actually being submerged. This game does not treat it as such. And the reason we're going to the Raft, and again, there's a intermediate scene that we kind of skipped here, is we are trying to figure out where Loki is, or what Loki is up to. And Loki is going to the Raft to break out a very important person.
Hulk, drop. You should know by now.
And our team is going to be Iron Man, still in the Marks. Actually, interestingly enough, this is Iron Man in the Mark 6 armor again, even though we had opened up the Mark 42 armor. We've got Hulk again so this is the same team up from the very first level of the game. And the only new character that we have access to here is Wolverine. And when we were talking about Black Panther, we talked a little bit about some of Wolverine's skills. Wolverine has claws, so he has the ability to use those to slash through certain points that would ordinarily only be destroyable by big figures, and he also has the wild sense, sort of spider sense kind of thing, to detect what's real, what's not, what's going on, find places to climb. Again, his claws give him the climbing ability as long as he's detected a climbing path. But Wolverine has a final ability, which is his healing factor. If you play as Wolverine and you hang around long enough and you've been damaged, your hearts will actually regenerate, which can be quite useful because then you can switch to another character and their health will reflect what Wolverine's health is. So Wolverine becomes the only new character here in this section, and as we move further and further into the game, there won't be a lot of new characters to see. So for today, I'd like to do something a little bit different. There was a news announcement yesterday involving the LEGO Dimensions game, which I was sort of expecting, but on the other hand, it also kind of caught me off guard. I'm not exactly the most in tune with video game news and updates. You know, I don't really keep an eye out for things like E3 because I'm not a video gamer just by itself. There are several franchises and things that I enjoy that I keep an eye out for. And one of those franchises is the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. Sega has been having an interesting time trying to figure out what to do with the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. After going through their tough experience in 2006, and then reviving the franchise through utilizing the boost mechanic, starting in Sonic Unleashed, and then going into Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations. And just when you thought that they might have figured things out based on those titles, they then tried to do something a little different in Sonic Lost World. And no one really knows exactly what they're going to do with the Sonic franchise next. But they did have a big disappointment with the spin-off game Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, which was nobody really likes that game. There are people who can play it and find enjoyment out of it, but it's not a particularly well-made game. So the question is, what could you do with Sonic to make more money and stay true to sort of the ideas of the franchise?
Okay.
And one of the things that I thought would make sense would be to make a Lego Sonic the Hedgehog game. And yesterday they announced that they're doing essentially the next best thing. They're going to make a Sonic the Hedgehog expansion for Lego Dimensions, which is their big multi-universe toy plug-in, buy characters to get more characters sandbox that seem to be popular, things like Disney Infinity. I'm not particularly interested in things that require you to shell out big amounts of money to pay. And I'm not going to necessarily get into Lego Dimensions just to get the Sonic DLC whenever it shows up, in, say, November. But I did think it was a good fit because, in the Sonic the Hedgehog universe, you're constantly destroying stuff, robots and things that could be shown in the Legoverse. The trouble is that Sonic, since 2006, has been a solo artist. There really haven't been a lot of team-up games for Sonic. Usually, if you play a Sonic game, you're going to be Sonic with the possibility of perhaps changing into Super Sonic once you get all the Chaos Emeralds. And these Lego games, as you can see, they're very much based on having a diversity of skills to hand out to different characters for them to use. Now, Sonic still has the potential for doing this. I mean, you have guys, you have Tails. Tails could easily be a mechanic character with flight capabilities. There are plenty of almost like Iron Man in this game. You've got Knuckles. You've got Amy, who could, wield her mallet to destroy things like the Big Figs do here. There's lots of potential. The thing is where would you grab the story from? With the exception of the Lego Batman games and this game, Lego games usually are arranged around a pre-existing story. It's just sort of easier to organize. And for the Sonic universe, that would be sort of difficult because you would sort of be parroting Sonic Generations, and you would need levels and stories that reflected the need for multiple characters. So, I could, in theory, if they made a full-on Lego Sonic game, which, again, is not going to happen, you could have a classic universe in a level, maybe designed around Sonic 3 and Knuckles. So you could still get, because in those times, Sonic and Tails were in the same level. So you can, in theory, get them working together. And you could also throw Knuckles into those levels because, he did have access to them. The tricky part begins, how would you use other existing Sonic material into a Lego Sonic game? You can't really use the adventure games because the characters there all travel on different levels. I mean, potentially, I guess you could use Adventure 1 because Knuckles, Sonic, and Tails sort of see some of the same level sets. But Adventure 2 you'd have to throw out because there's no overlap between the various characters and what they would be trying to do. So your first hub world would be Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Your second hub world would probably have to be Sonic Heroes, because that's a game where you are using team mechanics across the board. And again, these LEGO games are very skill specific and team oriented. So, you know, you're going to have to get team-based gameplay out of these things. And after 3 and Knuckles and Heroes, I'm not exactly sure what game you would look to as, you know, your model for another Sonic hub world. But again, we don't have to worry about those kinds of development ideas because it's just going to be Lego Lego Dimensions. And so you're going to get a limited amount of Sonic content. I don't know how many Sonic characters you're going to get. I hope you get more than just Sonic. My personal favorite Sonic character is Shadow the Hedgehog. But, you know, if you're just going to give us a handful of characters, Shadow is probably not one of the ones you would just sort of hand out, because a lot of the things that he does would be things that Sonic could also do. And you could run into the problem that I would see with Spider-Man and Venom in this game, in that Venom can do everything Spider-Man can. And then he can also turn into a Big Fig, which Spider-Man can't do. So essentially in free play, there's no reason ever to play as Spider-Man, because in any level that includes Spider-Man, you can play as Venom and have a more versatile character. So those are my thoughts on the whole Lego Dimensions thing, potentially bringing in Sonic the Hedgehog. Again, I would like to have seen a full-blown Lego Sonic game. I think that would have been a good opportunity, and it would have revived an old partnership, because you may not be aware, but way back in the mid-90s, Sega, and Traveler's Tales worked together to put together some of the Sega Saturn games. Things like Sonic R. Not that you have particularly fond memories of Sonic R. Sonic R has a neat soundtrack, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you go play the game for its sake, unless you've got friends and you guys are just looking to do something a little crazy. So let's bounce back into our break-in into the prison here. Now, we are about to unlock this door.
Let's get inside.
Because we're continuing to pursue Sabretooth. Sabretooth is, again, attempting to free Magneto with the assistance of Mystique and a bunch of prisoners on the raft. And these guys evidently just don't care about their own lives at all. So I'm going to, again, when we run into these situations where we're fighting large amounts of these flunky characters, I'm going to try to stick as Iron Man in order to use his distance attacks to clear them out. And again, I don't know why Iron Man has gone back to the Mark 6 suit for this level. Actually, I take it back. I'm getting ahead of myself. The reason he's in the Mark 6 suit is because you haven't seen him taken out of the Mark 6 suit yet. And we still got a little ways to go before we get the Mark 42 suit. This is the problem of, recording and, and then editing later. Because I've actually already recorded the next part involving the Mark 42 suit. Alright, so we're going to continue our campaign into the raft here.
Looks like the party's in full swing.
And now we are facing a new opponent, the Hulk enemy, the leader. So it's appropriate that we have the Hulk here. But the character who defeats the leader most effectively is not the Hulk. As you can see all those silvery bits floating around the leader, yeah, it means that Iron Man is the best option here. But the leader brings up why you would want to set a level here in the raft, because there's going to be lots of villains that we could potentially run into. You saw Whiplash earlier. Now we're running into the leader. We're going to run into more Hulk opponents, including a familiar face from earlier, as we keep moving in through the level. And I'm not exactly sure what I tripped on there. Here you can see we're going to need Wolverine for this part to go use his detection sense, figure out what's going on over here. Now, one thing you'll notice with claw characters is that there are some things called claw switches, which only activate for them. It's kind of a weird idea that, you know, you would have a switch that's designed to be cut by metal claws in order to function. But, you know, that was something they did to make the claw characters more useful. So you would feel like you would need to bring one around with you. So now we need to figure out how to get into that door. And you can see that electric switch right there. That would require a character such as Storm or Thor. And we don't really have one of those guys at the moment. We do have, you know, the enemy unfortunately has Whiplash. And he's going to try to stop us from doing stuff. And in that cage, you can see Abomination with his teddy bear. So he's just hanging out asleep with Teddy. And unfortunately for him, we're going to have to wake him up. It's just a matter of figuring out where to do it.
Sometimes I wish I had regenerating abilities.
Well, here you can see Wolverine's healing factor. When he gets knocked down to almost 0 hearts, he turns into a skeleton, and then he, you know, slowly grows back. Alright, so now Tony Stark is working his way very carefully. I don't know how many prisoners the raft holds, but it seems to me like there are a lot of guys who end up here. And that's kind of surprising since, you know, it's supposed to be for the worst of the worst. There's evidently a lot of those guys. Alright, so Iron Man has now set up the path. Now we need to get Wolverine over there to activate that claw switch somehow. So we're back over here again. And now I'm looking for things to destroy so I can build something. I found it. There it is. Now we're going to hack into the system here. And force a feedback on Whiplash. And it looks here like we're going to free Abomination. I don't think that's a particularly good idea. But, you know, we didn't necessarily get much of a choice there. That sets up a zip line for Wolverine to be able to access that area we were in earlier. Because, again, we're trying to get to that claw switch. Okay, I take it back. It's not really a zip line. It's a climbing chain. So now we can climb around the wall doing this, into the door, and there's that claw switch waiting for us. And now the door is open and we're one step closer to the deepest part of this level. Now, one of my issues with this level is merely that I don't come back to this level very much in free play. So I don't necessarily remember everything that happens. Or how long it is. This turns out to be quite a long level. Alright, so after Lokiing a few flunkies, here we go with some more hacking. We're trying to find out where Sabretooth is. And naturally, he's going to be in the last camera shot that we're offered. Huh, evidently Deadpool's here. Kind of surprised, but if you've been paying attention, Deadpool has been... I don't know if he's in every level, but he's, you know, we've run across him before.
Now we know which floor he's on. Jarvis, can you hack into the elevator controls? We need to get there right now.
Yes, sir. Connecting to elevator controls.
Right, give Jarvis some time to override the elevator. And now we've reached Sabretooth is going to release a bunch of the villains. Alright. Now you'll notice the first guy he released is Carnage. Carnage, you know, has all the skills that Venom and Spider-Man do, but Carnage cannot turn into a big fig like Venom can, so he's not quite the same. And then this is a cute scene right here. This is basically like, oh yeah, if Magneto and Iron Man ever did run into each other, it would make sense that Magneto would wreck Iron Man's suit. The one problem I've got with this, and I don't know how the comics explain this, whenever Magneto runs into Wolverine, he's always able to manipulate Wolverine's grafted adamantium skeleton. But you won't see him do that here. So it's going to be Wolverine and the Hulk versus Sabretooth and Magneto. And this is your classic beat-em-up game elevator scene. You know, you've seen this over and over again, whether it was in any one of the Ninja Turtles games from the early 90s. Everybody likes these sequences for some reason. Limited environment, perhaps, you know. Now for this, the strategy is kind of straightforward. After so long, you kill all the flunkies, and then Magneto will manipulate one of the 4 tiles, putting Sabretooth on one of them, and Wolverine will have to build something for the Hulk to throw. And for this first one, you're just throwing it at the one that Sabretooth is on. In the future, you're going to be throwing it at also the one that Sabretooth is not on. And while you're in the middle scene where you're getting rid of the flunkies, you can't actually hurt Sabretooth. So you'll see him jumping around. You can't really do anything to him, so you might as well ignore him. You know, because of the auto aim, I can't guarantee that Hulk won't try to target him during the sequences. So here we go. Here's phase 2 of this. And Wolverine going to build a couch. And Hulk going to throw couch. Now on the next phase of this, you're going to notice that the couch type things that Wolverine builds are actually damageable. And you may be thinking, oh, well, that's not good, because I kind of need those to progress. Well, fortunately for you, the game, if you break the couch, the game will respawn the entire couch instead of just leaving you stuck in that situation. So here we go. This is the last part of this segment. And really, this feels like the main boss fight in this this level. But it's not going to turn out to be that way. And that's just kind of, depending on how you feel, I mean, that's either good or bad. And there you go, there's me breaking the couch. And there's the couch respawning. I mean, for some people, it's good that it's not the final boss level, or not the final boss of this level, because, you know, they're enjoying playing Wolverine and Hulk, and they don't want it to end. But on the other hand, you know, what you have to do for the real final boss level isn't quite as neat as fighting Magneto, because he's not sticking around. He's going to be making a run for it.
Come on, you big green gorilla.
And there's our pal Emil. Yeah. So the final thing that we have to do in this section is not go after Magneto, but it's actually to defeat Abomination. Which we did rather easily the first time. This time, though, it's going to be a little bit trickier. For some reason, and I don't know much about Abomination's backstory, he doesn't like bright lights. Now, I don't know if this is just because nobody likes bright lights getting shine in their face, or if he's somewhat stronger in the dark. But you remember, we beat him pretty easily the first time we faced him. We didn't have to do any crazy things necessarily. This time we're going to have to put lights on him and then hit him. We're going to have to do that 3 times too, so it's... And I kind of forgot the order of... Generally speaking, the stuff's in, 3 separate places. And so I decided to start over here on the right, but in order to do that, I needed Hulk. And then the problem is that Abomination will hit you with his breath, which evidently stops you in your tracks because of how bad it is, even if you're the Hulk. And considering the Hulk can run across radioactive sludge without any problem, that makes that breath pretty impressive. So here I have the big stone I was going to hurl at the wall, and again, it's not letting me do it, so I'm basically give up on doing it with the Hulk. See if I can get over there with Wolverine, and Kind of stuck on an interesting spot. And then I go back to the Hulk and finally break it open. Now that results in some parts that need to be built. Of course, the Hulk cannot do that. And I also have this problem of Wolverine being stuck behind this box. Not exactly sure how I did this. Alternatively, I could have left Wolverine behind the box and made the Hulk turn into Bruce Banner in order to build stuff. Now, what happened there is that that pile of tires becomes a trampoline. And I didn't necessarily recognize that that's what had happened. And so I was a little confused, started looking around for other places to take advantage of. So I used this dig spot here. To set up this ladder. And from this spot, there are two ways I can go that lead to two different light towers that can be used against Abomination. So there you go. Now, I accidentally pressed Y too fast. And you got to wait for that gauge to fill up all the way. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And then you can switch to the Hulk and try to beat him up. Now, like the first Hulk Abomination fight, I believe this is a Hulk-specific event. If you come back in free play and you have a big figure that's not the Hulk trying to do this, I think the game will switch you to the Hulk just for that real-time event. And then, of course, you know, we can't have nice things, so the Magneto helicopter, or the Sabretooth helicopter, forget which, will shoot each of the lights in turn as you set them up. So now I'm looking for another set of lights. So we're going to mess around over here. There's probably a mini kit or something like that in that room ordinarily, but we are not. We're not in free play, and I've already got all the mini kits, so it's not going to show up there. So now I'm just breaking stuff for the sake of trying to find something to build or something to do. And the answer is right there in front of my face. I just need to bounce on those tires with Wolverine. But again, I didn't really recognize those tires. Ordinarily, when you have to jump on a platform or something, the platform is a little bit more colorful. And so I'm busily destroying stuff in the level. And what I'm doing there is I'm checking to see if that bar is a bar you can grab onto. One problem I've had with this game and several of these levels is that there are grab bars that don't look particularly different than anything else around. And okay, now I'm trying to do stuff with Hulk over here, and our pal Abomination is throwing rocks at me. And finally, I realize what exactly that's there for. One of Wolverine's other skills is that he can do the same sort of acrobatics as Black Widow or Captain America. When I talked about Black Panther being a similar character, I don't remember if Black Panther can do those as well, simply because I just don't use Black Panther in the levels very much. And now we activate the claw switch, and we finally find that second light, because that really took longer than it should have. We had actually solved the puzzle a long time ago. Hopefully this time we will just let the light bake Abomination. And then again we can send the Hulk missile after him. Go into another real-time event here. And you'll notice the animation on these is exactly the same. They're going to shoot down our light again, so now there's only one more light for us that we need to do. And that opened up the elevator that will lead to it. So, of course, I'm not really. Of course, Hulk will not be able to fit in that elevator, and of course, Abomination caught us in midair with the daggum stone. So once again, it is time for Wolverine. And once again, it's also time for Abomination's bad breath. Alright, so all we need to do now is a little bit of swinging. And a little bit more swinging. And for some reason, we can fit freed prisoners almost anywhere in this prison. And one final claw switch that we need to build and activate. And there's the final light tower. All we need to do is get in it. Unfortunately, this is one of the tricks here is that you need Y to get into the light tower. You also can switch characters with Y, which is what happened to me there. That's why I went over to the Hulk briefly. And there we go, we got Abomination one final time. So the Hulk will have to go and finish him off. This time we get the slightly different real-time event. You get the same finishing animation from the first level. And then Hulk destroys Sabretooth's helicopter with Abomination's body. But Magneto does get away. There you go. Hulk sucks Sabretooth up into his vacuum. So now we are done with the rock up at the lockup. They revealed that Loki was here. You know that Red Skull got away. That's going to be important later. And this is Loki retrieving his scepter. Right. And next time, we will need to do something about the fact that Tony Stark is in his underwear. Definitely need to fix that situation. And perhaps we'll finally see the Mark 42 suit. I keep trying to tell you is so neat. See you then.